In the summer of 1990, a soil scientist working a field in western Scotland pushed his spade into the grass and turned the turf. He found almost nothing. The earthworms that should have been there, the deep burrowing night crawlers that had been aerating and draining that soil for centuries, were gone. Not reduced, gone. Below detectable levels. What he found instead, curled beneath a flat stone at the field's edge like a ribbon of dried mucus, was a creature that had no business being in Scotland at all. A flatworm. Slender, dark brown, roughly the length of a human hand, with a pale cream underside and a faintly triangular head. Native to the cool forests of New Zealand's South Island, 12,000 miles away. Nobody had let it in deliberately. Nobody had tracked its arrival, and by the time anyone understood what it was doing underground, it had already been spreading, silently and unchallenged, for 30 years. This is the story of Arthrodendius triangulatus, the New Zealand flatworm. An animal so quiet, so slow, and so completely invisible that it colonized Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, and the Faroe Islands before most soil scientists had begun to quantify the damage. It has no natural enemies in Britain. No pesticide controls it. No biological method stops it. And beneath the surface of thousands of British fields and gardens, it is still advancing today, heading south, guided by a warming climate that is slowly unlocking new territory. To understand why this matters, you need to understand what earthworms actually do to the ground beneath your feet. Charles Darwin spent decades studying them. In 1881, the year before he died, he published a book arguing that the earthworm was one of the most important animals in the history of the world. He was not exaggerating. In a single hectare of healthy British grassland, earthworm populations can exceed 2 million individuals. Their burrows channel rainwater deep into the soil profile, preventing surface flooding and recharging groundwater. Their casts, the material they excrete after processing organic matter, are among the most nutrient-dense substances in any ecosystem. The deep burrowing anisic species physically drag surface leaf litter down through the earth, mixing organic and mineral layers in a process that builds fertile topsoil across centuries. Remove them and the entire structure of the soil begins to fail. It compacts under the weight of rainfall and livestock. Water that once drained steadily through a network of burrows now pools on the surface. Moles, which depend almost entirely on anisic earthworms as a food source, abandon the land and disappear from territories they had held for decades. Thrushes, lapwings, and starlings that once probed the grassland for worms have nothing left to hunt, and they move on or decline. The cascade runs further than almost anyone expects, and it begins in silence, a meter below the surface where no one is watching. The flatworm that triggered this cascade arrived in Britain hidden inside a plant pot. Sometime in the 1950s, ornamental plants were shipped from New Zealand to Edinburgh's Royal Botanic Garden. Tucked into the soil around their roots, invisible even under close inspection, were the flatworm's dark, cherry-red egg capsules. Each capsule, roughly 8 millimeters long, can contain up to 14 juveniles. The eggs hatched. The flatworms fed. And because the cool, damp climate of Scotland is almost identical to the forest floors of New Zealand's South Island from which the species came, they found conditions near perfect. By 1963, the flatworm had been formally recorded in Belfast. It was the first published record anywhere in Britain or Ireland. A record in England followed in 1965. By the 1970s, retrospective surveys showed it spreading from botanic gardens into nurseries and garden centres across Glasgow and Edinburgh. By the 1980s, it had reached domestic gardens across much of Scotland. By the 1990s, it was colonising farmland and had established on 30 Scottish islands, including Skye and Orkney. The invasion happened in plain sight. Nobody recognized it for what it was until the earthworms were already gone. The mechanism of invasion is deceptively simple. The flatworm does not run or fly. It barely moves during daylight. Under the sun, it lies coiled beneath a flat stone, a piece of wood, or a plant pot, wrapped in a layer of protective mucus, indistinguishable from a scrap of dark rubber. After dark, it wakes. It glides across the soil surface on a film of slime, following chemical signals that lead it toward earthworm burrows. When it finds one, it slides down inside it. At the bottom, it locates the earthworm, coils around the body, and secretes digestive enzymes directly onto the prey's skin, dissolving the tissues from the outside before consuming the liquefied remains. Each flatworm eats approximately 1 earthworm per week. A single breeding pair can produce up to 9 egg capsules per season, with each capsule hatching as many as 14 young. Populations build slowly, year after year, and once flatworms establish at a site, no available method exists to remove them. They are, in the language of invasion biology, functionally irreversible once entrenched. The soil they leave behind is quieter, denser, and drains more slowly than the soil they arrived in. Dr. Brian Berg of the James Hutton Institute in Dundee spent much of his career mapping the flatworm's advance across Scotland. His surveys, conducted at thousands of sites over several decades, found a consistent and alarming pattern. Where flatworm density was high, anisic earthworm populations collapsed. The species most severely affected was Lumbricus terrestris, the common nightcrawler, the deep burrower Darwin had studied most closely, the animal responsible for pulling organic matter into the soil profile and maintaining the drainage channels that keep grassland functional. In heavily infested areas of Northern Ireland, surveys found that over 70% of farms now carried established flatworm populations. The earthworm communities on those farms had been fundamentally changed. Estimated annual losses to Scottish agriculture alone have been placed at £10 million. Driven by degraded soil structure, impaired water drainage, and rising flood risk across farmland that can no longer move water the way it once did. What makes Arthrodendius triangulatus so difficult to combat is the completeness of its ecological advantage in Britain. In New Zealand, it exists within a system that checks it. Animals eat it, parasites weaken it, and competition limits its reach. In Britain, none of those pressures apply. Native predators will not touch it. Its mucus coat deters hedgehogs, badgers, and most birds. Frogs have consumed juveniles under laboratory conditions, and beetle larvae have been observed attacking egg capsules, but neither provides control at any ecologically meaningful scale. The Wildlife and Countryside Act makes it a criminal offense to knowingly distribute the species, but the main vectors of spread, the movement of soil, potted plants, compost, and hay bales between infested and clean ground, are almost impossible to monitor comprehensively across a country of millions of gardens and tens of thousands of farms. The flatworm's range in Britain is also shifting with the climate. Cool, damp winters have historically confined it to Scotland and Northern Ireland, preventing it from establishing widely across England's warmer south. But as winter temperatures rise across Britain, that boundary is softening. Records from northern England have become more frequent in recent years. Modeling studies have identified viable habitat extending further south and have suggested that a warmer future could carry the flatworm's range into Germany, Poland, southern Sweden, and Denmark, spreading the earthworm collapse that Scotland has experienced into some of the most productive agricultural soils in continental Europe. No solution exists. No pesticide is approved for use against it in garden or farmland settings. No biological control agent has passed the safety requirements needed for release into British ecosystems. The official advice from government agencies amounts to vigilance. Check regularly under pots and stones. Destroy any flatworms found by placing them in boiling water. Never move soil or plants from infested areas to clean ground. It is reasonable, careful guidance. It also sits uneasily against the scale of what is already established underground across hundreds of thousands of hectares of British land, and against the fact that for most people living in affected areas, this invasion is entirely invisible, conducted in the dark, in the soil beneath their feet, one earthworm at a time. The earthworms still persist in the places the flatworm has not yet managed to reach. But in the fields and gardens where it arrived decades ago, the soil has already changed in ways that will take generations to reverse, if reversal is even possible. The drainage is measurably worse. The compaction is deeper. The birds that once hunted those fields have gone elsewhere or declined. And beneath the surface, unhurried, undetected, completely uncontrolled, the flatworm is still moving south. Share your thoughts below.